Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Church Talk podcast with Rob and Jason. We are excited to share a little bit of time with you today. I don't know what you're doing right now, if you're driving or working out or, I don't know, trying to fall asleep late at night. You never know. People listen to us for very different reasons, I assume. But
But
yeah,
maybe we're therapeutic and we don't even know it.
we definitely don't know it. But either way, we're glad that you took the time to download and to listen. And we do ask. I mean, I usually say this at the end, but man, if you'll take a minute and like and subscribe and then share the podcast, it really helps us. It helps other people hear what's going on and hopefully connects them to some really good resources. And Rob, you and I say this a lot, but I mean, we exist to engage, equip, and encourage pastors and leaders. And so anytime we can do that, it's a win and it's what we're about. And we love doing it. And we love doing it on this podcast, but also just in person when we get to travel around and see people and hang out and do all the fun stuff. We really appreciate that. Rob, you doing okay today, man? I'm feeling just like you've got a glow about you that's like, hey, I think I'm over all my sickness. We're recording this before Easter, so you're not dead yet from all the stuff and activity. You're glowing. You doing good?
I'm doing very well. I had after, a weekend, right? So like when you're in ministry, I don't talk to too many pastors who are like, I just sleep like a baby all weekend long. I sleep like a baby on Sunday night after, the weekend's done, but my mind just gets so engaged with ministry stuff in the weekend, Saturday night into Sunday, I can be as ready can be, and my mind is still kind of thinking, nonstop. So it wakes me up through the night. It's hard to fall asleep. So, yeah, I feel well rested. I got endless stories of God just doing really cool things in people's lives. I could tell you bad stories too, but and we get to talk about resurrection here coming up. I know this will drop after Easter, but yeah, I'm always excited and everything's popping outside here in the state of
Mhm.
Ohio, and I even had a buddy text me today because we've had some warmer days and some nice warm rain. And he's like, hey, we need to start checking your property for blacks, which is like one of the early forms of morel mushrooms. So
Mm,
I think maybe in a couple hours, there's going to be some mushroom searching begin to occur.
nice.
So yeah, all of those are very good things,
Yeah.
and I'm willing to sort of push aside things that would rob my joy today.
That's great. Well, I'm excited because we have on today a guest that we've had before and talk about bringing joy. Every time I interact with our guest today, whether it's reading the books that he's read or that he's written or the in person over the interwebs like we do, I just always walk away feeling like a better person. I just feel a little more joy. And so I mean it is our honor and privilege to have on for a second time the one and only JD Walt. JD, welcome back to the Church Talk podcast.
It feels like deja vu.
I'm not sure if that's good or bad,
This
Rob,
is
but
great.
oh,
I've
well,
got I hope I have something new to say.
I trust me, I'm not worried about that. Just for those of you that maybe really missed out the first time, catch you up real quick. JD he is, and this is on the back of the book that we're going to talk about today. He is a renowned Bible teacher and prolific author. Yeah, and we talked about this last time, but you were the dean of chapel at Asbury Seminary, and then of course you're the founder, and I love this, sower in chief at
Sword chief.
Seedbed, and that organization exists to gather, connect, and resource the people of God to sow for the great awakening. And also, and this is what makes me love you even more, you are the pastor of Gillette Methodist Church in Gillette, Arkansas. You are a practitioner.
Mm.
As much as you write and produce and all that stuff, you pastor a congregation of people. And I just appreciate that about you. And so, man, welcome. We're glad we can
Thank
have a little
you.
conversation with you today.
Well, I'm honored to be back, and I love the podcast and what you all are doing. You're encouraging pastors. I remember when I was dean of chapel at Asbury, this man used to come into my office. He was one of our students. He was in a wheelchair. His whole life was a major struggle, but he was just so brilliant. And he'd roll up into my office. His name was Sam Eden. And he would say, Who will mend the cobbler's shoes? He saw himself as
Yeah.
my pastor.
Aw.
And he was. And that's the thing, you know, we read the text about sheep without a shepherd, but what about all the shepherds without a shepherd? That's what you guys are doing.
We're trying.
You're shepherding shepherds. You're mending the cobbler's shoes. And it's often thankless and it's always needed. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's great.
thanks for that.
Yeah.
JD, as Jason was introing you and giving your bio again, and I loved what he said, and I completely agree. That idea that you're not only doing all the other things that you have done and are doing, but that you're also, pastoring a congregation. I think that's significant. I think a lot of times, and all three of us here today, aren't rookies, right? We have some years in our rearview mirror, and I think I'll just, I would say in general, but I'll just speak for me. I think, I have thought this thought in my head, and it's probably not a good one. It's probably not a helpful or healthy one. There are times where I've thought to myself, after being a pastor now, like day in and day out in the local church, I've learned some things. I've experienced some things, many of them the hard way. I wish I would have been able to learn smarter along the way sometimes. And these things, I want to be able to share with others, which is one of the reasons Jason and I, with 60 to 70 years of ministry experience just between the two of us, started this podcast a number of years ago. But there are moments, and here's I think that the dysfunctional part sometimes, it's like, hey, if God were to open a door, maybe I would step into something different where I could help the broader church more. And in my head, I think of that instead of doing sort of this day in and day out, sometimes great thing and sometimes slog, right? With people just in the depths of life, which is really what it's all about. And so, like, as somebody, who has a lot of life and a lot of experience, but who also, is continuing to stay in that day to day with real people, talk about like sort of the value of both of those happening, not just I gained a whole bunch of experience and then I moved on to something different. But I'm also doing other things, but I'm continuing to stay in that in a real way.
Yes, that's good. I mean, to me, even though I've pastored a long way and through different kinds of places and organizational dynamics, this is the most on the ground thing I've ever done, and it feels like the buy-in, right? It's like table stakes. It's I don't know. It kind of feels like my credibility in a way
Mm,
that I am just it's a very small town. Our town's about 500 people and our church is very it's small, but it's super alive. I don't know. My dad every Sunday he's losing his memory and he's with me in the wake up call sings with me hymns we sing. He's losing his memory, his dementia is hitting him hard. It's very sad. It's very hard to watch. But every Sunday, he'll ask me about 5 times before we even get to lunch, "Well, how many did you have today?" And he was there. I'm like, "Dad, I bet you we had 75 today. On a good Sunday, we'll have 100 maybe." But that doesn't even matter to me anymore. It's that person and those children and the kids I get to teach. I teach the high school and the middle school Sunday school every Sunday. That's the highlight of my week. Just sitting up there and mixing it up with these kids. And then, yesterday we probably had about 4 little kids for the children's sermon and another highlight. And I don't know. It's not a dying church. It's
yeah.
alive. I mean, I think there's no such thing as a dead church. I think that's the ultimate oxymoron. You may have a dead something, but it's not a church.
Mm,
You can call it a
hmm.
dead church.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jason, before we get on to like talking about all the important stuff, I just think, you know, man, JD, I love this. I love like just what you shared with us because I know this. I know we have pastors, we have church leaders listening to this podcast right now who feel like, does my life even matter? Is it even counting? Like what I do is so small. I know I helped this person and I poured into that family and I tried to make a difference here. And they're discouraged because they're like, man, if I had my bio had renowned Bible teacher and prolific author, man, I'd probably feel a lot better about myself, especially on Monday mornings. And I just love that on a Monday, you're saying these words like, "Hey, I got some of those accolades by my name, but the highlight of my week is teaching those 4 kids or hanging out with those high schoolers in a Sunday
Yes.
school class and just sort of doing the life thing, man." That is amazing.
I know, like, where in the world did I become a renowned Bible teacher? I'm like, who what marketing department came up with that? I'm like, "Do they know
I think it
me?
was your marketing department. I think that's the
I'm pretty sure it was Zondervan.
Do
We'll
they
just
know me?" You know what I often tell people? I'm like, "I'm not a Bible scholar. I'm a Bible lover." That's what I could
mm,
say.
yes.
mm,
That's my
Yeah.
qualification. I've read the Bible a lot, and I've anyhow, yeah, this little church, and it's changing me. It's the further I get in this, I think, we all kind of probably start in it with some grandeur and some, you know, grandiosity and we all see big churches and probably been a part of them, and nothing against them, but it gets smaller and smaller for me. And I just, what I notice about Jesus is that he's glad to stand in front of a crowd, but he's never talking to that crowd. He's talking to a person,
Yeah.
always.
Yeah.
And when you look at Jesus, it's always a person. It's a woman by a well. It's a man in a tree. It's a blind man by the side of the road. It's a woman caught in adultery. It's it's a fisherman, it's a leper. He is always dealing with a single. He gets in a boat, goes across a lake to one man possessed with 5,000 evil spirits. It's remarkable. And I'm like, how often do I look past the person because I want a crowd. You've often heard, and we've all seen, and maybe we've been at times, of that preacher, right? He loves a crowd, but he doesn't like people.
mm,
I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But and that's kind of fashioned, in fact, my whole understanding of awakening. I think I used to be a sort of revivalistic, maybe a little bit, and I'm just like, no, no, And here's how I define awakening. It's the journey of love from Jesus to a person, through a person, to a person,
Yeah.
through a person, to a person until it's over.
Yeah.
And it's just gotten so personal and small and on the ground. And in fact, seed, it's a single, and Jesus says, unless a single seed of wheat goes into the ground and dies, it'll never produce a harvest. And so I've just totally left behind the realm of scale and scaling. I'm like, the kingdom won't scale. It'll multiply, but it won't scale. It'll multiply like a seed multiplies, which means it has to go on the long journey into the ground and into the roots and up through the fruits. I don't know. It's just, and I think I've just become to understand that I've wanted a shortcut.
mm,
And in fact, you look at my prayer life in the past, it's like, it just looks like a lot of reverse delegation. God, would you do this? Would you blow this up? Would you do that thing? And he's like, no, that's your job. I want to give you the fullness of my presence to act as my agent. And you got one job, and that's just get another agent and another agent after that. And so awakening has ceased to become this sort of God dumps it out of the sky in response to our earnest prayers. And it's more of a tipping point of people who have awakened to their agency as Holy Spirit filled ambassadors of Jesus doing it just like he did it.
I love that because, part of my job, part of the questions I get asked is, what is a healthy pastor or a healthy church, and I've been reading your Lent book, Jesus Asking, and
Thank
we
you.
talked about that before, but we're recording this, we just started Holy Week, so I'm there, but every single day, it starts out, and you start all of your daily stuff with this, of that prayer of consecration, right? And I just like it, the way, Ephesians 5, wake up, sleeper, rise from the dead, and Christ will
Christ will
shine
shine
on
on
you.
you.
I know, I love that.
That
And
that's consecration, then it's
yes,
transformation, right? Wake
yep,
up, consecration, rise up, transformation, shine up, demonstration.
yeah.
And that's the whole gospel right there.
And as a pastor, realizing that as I embody the gospel, right, as you just described it,
Yes.
then I start that prayer of Jesus, I belong to you. And I've actually started to use this now when I travel and speak at different churches
Amen.
to open my message. I do a prayer and I start with I just quote it. I don't even pretend. A friend
Yes.
of mine says this and I just quote you and say that is because it's Jesus, I belong to you. And then I
I
love
belong
this.
to
I
you.
lift up my heart to you. I set my mind on you, and then I fix my eyes on you, and then I offer my body as a living sacrifice. And that part of that, it's every aspect of me now I am
Yep.
handing over to God. And when
Yes.
I do that every single day, it doesn't matter what I do for a living,
Mm.
right?
No, you became invincible at that moment
Nah.
because I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. Somebody wrote me the other day and they said, I don't know if you intended this, but have you ever noticed how Jesus says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, like the eyes are the window to the soul, with all your strength, your body. I'm like, no, I never did. That's one
Mm.
of those serendipities
Yeah.
that's the greatest commandment.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think anybody needs anything else here. I think, you know what? Everybody sign up for seed beds, read all
Come
JD's
on,
books. Let's just pray.
wake up call, guys. And that's the thing too. I'm like, I don't know. I've been doing this. I've been writing every day for 11 going on 12 years. And it has worn me out. I'm like, come on, guys, please. Would y'all help? Would y'all help this grow? Because I'm tired and Jesus is not tired, which is a sign I'm doing it wrong. If I'm tired and he's not tired, right? He said, my yoke is easy. If you're doing it, if it feels too hard, you're doing it wrong. So I'm still trying to learn how to do it with him.
Well,
But
I've noticed lately, leading up to Lent, at least, you had a couple of guest, I call them writers. I don't know what else
mhm,
to call them there,
yeah.
which I know gave you time to work on other stuff. And
What do you mean? Just take a nap?
work on, resting. And so I love that you're seeing, that thing that I think every pastor feels like I've got to do it. If I don't do it, it won't be done right, especially pastors in smaller churches, churches under 200. If I don't do it, it ain't going to happen, all that stuff. And I'm sure you felt that way for a while, even with, the wake up call. Hey, if I don't do it, it's probably not going to be as good. And what if that's the one time someone checks it out for the first time and it's somebody, all those thoughts. I've had them all when,
Yeah.
I was planting a church, leading it, all this stuff. And yet there is a point at which we have to say it's not mine, it's God's.
Yeah.
And that's where I think a lot of pastors, one of the words they may need to hear today is, hey, it's not your church, it's God's church. And you need to be you. He called you to lead and to shepherd and to care. And he wants you to do it as you to the best of your ability. But ultimately it's his. And I don't know, there's
Yeah.
just something freeing about that.
Mm.
It is. And the thing that and I feel like I'm just only starting to learn this, and it's just still barely into it, is I think for the longest time, I was doing my work unto the people for Jesus. And he's like, you're getting it backwards. He said, you've got to learn to do your work unto me for people. And it's like one day I was serving communion years ago. And I said, I was going through the liturgy, and I said, this is, and he took the bread and he broke it, and he said, this is my body broken for you. Take and eat and do this in remembrance of me. Afterwards, this pastor comes up to me and he's about halfway mad. And he said, Son, don't ever say that again. He said, He didn't say, This is my body broken for you. He said, This is my body given for you. It was broken unto his Father.
Mm,
He was doing this unto his Father for the world. He wasn't doing it for the world unto his Father. And it's a subtle thing. It's a prepositional shift, but it's interesting. You look at the end of Jesus' ministry and he's standing there with Peter and he didn't say, Do you love them? He said, Do you love me?
mm,
Feed my sheep. They're mine. Do you love me? And to me, he's like, Learn to do this unto me for them, because it's that dynamic, abiding, bonded attachment that we have to Jesus, through which he just flows capacity that we don't have.
Mm,
And it's
yeah.
it's unbelievable. But I have for many, many years just lived in a more, I call that a transcendent model. I've lived in
mm,
a functional model, which is like, I'm just gonna try to pour myself out, and then I'm gonna need to go take a break and get filled up,
yeah.
rest again. I wind up resting from work or resting for work, and I think Jesus is trying to teach us what it looks like to actually rest in work, because we're not the worker, he is.
Mm,
Isn't that something?
yeah.
That is awesome. That is awesome. It actually makes me think, a couple weeks ago at Exponential, I heard one of the talks was referencing a couple questions that Walter Brueggemann, the famous Old Testament scholar who passed away this last summer, actually at
I
92
didn't
years
realize
old, which
that.
is crazy. But he pointed out the two questions that God asks in Genesis 2 or in Genesis 3 and in Genesis 4, right? And the thing we typically ask when everything is broken, whether we've done it ourselves, like, look at what I've done, it's like, what have you done? Right? Sometimes we say this to our kids when they've messed things up. We say this to our friends when they've completely, destroyed their lives with sin or mistakes or whatever. What have you done? And so we kind of think of our Heavenly Father sometimes when we've messed it up, like that's God's posture. But in the beginning, when, Adam and God, everything's perfect, right? Just like he planned, and Adam and Eve choose sin, the only apparent option there is for sin, they pick that one instead. And God comes walking in the garden and he doesn't say, What have you done? He says, Where
Where
are you?
are
Right? He's
you?
more concerned with the relationship. And like that's Genesis 3:9, Genesis 4:9, exactly one chapter later, when Cain is angry because he kind of gives a half-hearted offering to God, where his brother Abel gives of the best to God, and so God looks with favor on Abel and not on Cain, and so Cain makes a bad situation worse by killing his brother. Right? Like, talk about, like, if there was a time to say, "What have you done?" You find a guy standing over his brother with a knife in a bloody pool, and like, "What have
Yeah.
you done?" Right? No, no, no. God is like, "Where is your brother?" Like, for
Where's your
God,
brother?
that connectedness, that relationship with him and with others matters more. And the point that was made, which was so good, like, for God the priority is connection, not perfection. And actually the perfect life comes through that
Through it.
connectedness with God and with others,
Yeah.
not in us beating ourselves up and trying harder.
'Cause it's his perfection. It's not
Yes.
ours.
Yeah.
And it's his nature that he shares. And, this is, we're hard to learn it because we're raised in such an educational model and such a functional performance model. And it seems to work at a certain level, even in church. But I don't know, we led a pastor's retreat recently, and I just was remembering hearing a pastor who went, one of the great pastors of our time, who went on to have a great, great moral crash. He said, "Beware of doing the work of God in a way that destroys the work of God in you."
Mm,
And it's ironic that did say that, but we all kind of know it, and we need a better model. And of course, the model is Jesus himself.
Yeah, but he's a hard model to follow today.
Well, but the point, see, this is the great epiphany that I'm having every day is that if it is, there's the 10 two-letter words. If it is to be, it is up to me. The 10 real words are if it is to be, it is up to Jesus in me. It's up to this is it's like I'm always trying to get this. I say this, and I have this little thing called the Sower's Creed. It's on. I need to start saying it more at the end of the wake up call. But one of the things I say in that little creed, I say, if Jesus is good news and Jesus is in me, then I'm good news.
Mm,
If Jesus is love and Jesus is in me, then I am love. And so my work all of a sudden becomes like, let me just behold Jesus. Let me just get my eyes on him. Let me just get down on the ground in these stories with him and watch. He says, watch how I do it. See how I work. Because the way I did it then, that's how I'm going to do it now. I'm going to do greater things than these. I'm going to do them. And it's learning to abide in him. It's all kind of, in some ways it's very obvious, but it's also very hidden from us. Just like that, like, do you love me? Or he didn't say, do you love them? He's trying to draw us into this deep, abiding, bonded attachment whereby we are, as Peter would say, participating in the divine nature. And as Paul is constantly saying, the secret is Christ in you. And so it's learning to carry the transcendent presence of God as his agent. And this is anybody can do it.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's my job. How many can I just get not another convert, but another agent? I think this is the most under taught thing in the universe, like agency. Like he's doing this through us
Yeah.
because he's in us. And it's not like he's modeling something for us to go imitate and try harder to do more, to be better. We've largely adopted a self improvement paradigm in
Right.
our
mm,
time with a little Jesus sprinkled over it.
Yeah.
mm.
Yeah. Well, and that's where, we're going when we are recording this, it's, leading up to Easter. It's the week, Holy Week. And the more I have been thinking and studying and just meditating on what Jesus accomplished, both at the cross, but then also in the resurrection, was ultimately the outpouring of the Spirit onto all of us.
Yes.
And that is really the gospel, that we are now connected not just to Jesus, but to the Father because of what Jesus did and how he sent the Spirit. And so now all of us, whether you're a pastor or, a candlestick maker, whatever, a cobbler,
Yeah.
right? You are connected and you are operating out of the Spirit of God. And so you can do that. And for a pastor of a small church, a medium church, a big church, it doesn't matter, inner city, suburbs, country, the point isn't how big is my church getting or how many converts am I winning. The point is, how am I embodying life in the Spirit to the people around me in such a way that I'm helping them then also embody a life filled with the Spirit? And that goes back to what you talked about, is seed, right? A seed. I've got to die to
See,
myself before I can do that. And so when I do that, I can begin to see the fruit growing up. Again, it's Jesus doing the work. I'm just following
he
his
is the
lead.
seed. And
Exactly.
I just was
And we are the
tracing.
seed bed.
We are the soil. We're the seed bed. Nice. Seed bed. Which interestingly, I came up with that word. I was back working at the seminary and I started playing around with that word. Seminary comes from the Latin word seminarius. Its literal meaning is seed bed. And I'm like, what if a seminary could become a seed bed again? And that's when I started this, like, I'm like, well, where would that start? And I said, I wonder if we could read the Bible together here.
At
It's kind of a
seminary?
novel concept. A seminary.
No. Yeah, too busy.
We have too many other books and too many rules to follow. Come on.
And I've been trying to do that ever since. Like, can we read the
Mm,
Bible together? Could we and that's what the wake up call is. It's not a daily devotion. I mean, it's kind of what it is, but somebody asked my kids one time, "What's your dad do?" They said, "He writes devotions." I'm like, "Great."
Eh,
But it's a meeting with Jesus. I'm like, Guys, we're meeting with Jesus in the Word of God. And if you want to win the day, you got to win the morning. So that's what we're doing. We're winning the morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jesus, He's been waiting on us, and we're going to enter in consecration. And consecration opens a door into what I call the great cathedral of revelation, the Word of God. And then we're going to behold what He's revealing. And the Spirit's empowering a response to that. And we're going to respond to that revelation, in which that's what transformation is. That's transcendent formation. And then we're going to walk out the door into the world. We're going to get our seed. I always hold up my seed. Demonstration. We're going to sow love today. We're going to encourage people. We're going to bless people. We're going to be present. We're going to see them. We're going to do all the things. There'll be some of them will be climbing up in trees. Others will be left on the road for dead, just like in the Bible. There'll be women caught in adultery who are living in shame. There'll be all the things Jesus, people under evil oppression and demonic, presence. It's the same world. And Jesus is just looking for agents like, who can I go with today?
mm,
Who can I go and do this through today? But I was working with the seed metaphor, and it's interesting how the Bible, even Jesus says, the seed, a man comes and scatters the seed, and he does nothing, and it comes up, and there's the leaf, then the blade, then the fruit, and he did nothing. We plant, and we get to participate in the harvest, but the seed does everything else. And that's Jesus' presence in us. And I was thinking, I thought, so you got a seed, and then it becomes a shoot, and then it becomes leaves and roots, then it becomes a flower, and then fruit, and then it's seeds, plural.
Mm.
mm,
I take this seed to my little kids in church, and my little children's sermon, and I say, guys, if we put this seed in the ground, this grain of corn, I said, how many seeds do you think would come from it? And one of them raised their hand. They're like, oh, I think it'll make 10. And then another one thought they were really going to stretch it out, like 100. And they thought they were going big. And I pulled out an ear of corn that I just pulled from a field up the road. I said, how about 150? One seed becomes 850 seeds. I mean, that's the math of God's kingdom, right?
Mhm.
It's extraordinary. Jesus takes a natural miracle to teach us about a supernatural miracle. And all we have to do is sow it. And that's what we're trying to do every morning. We're trying to wake up to the
Yeah.
word of God and sow it in our life and
mm,
say God's word.
Well, before we run out of time having these amazing conversations, I love this. I could do this all day long, but I don't want to neglect mentioning a new resource that you just put out that I want to make sure people get. And it's Exodus, right?
Exodus,
It's a
yes.
book on Exodus. It's daily readings and 80 some chapters, right? We
Yeah, there's
just
90.
90.
90. I just looked at it. I'm like, what?
90 chapters. So this is 3 months worth of daily readings. And it basically walks through Exodus. And I love the subtitle, The Path of Deliverance from Wasteland to Graceland.
Yes.
I'm just curious, like you wrote this, and obviously it's just like your other books. There might be a little bit more in each day on this one, at least my experience as I've read through the first little bit of it. Uh, but
I
yeah,
was getting wordy, wasn't I?
No, it wasn't wordy. It was just, yeah, there's just more to say, right? You're trying
Exodus
to
is long. It's
it
40 chapters.
yeah, yeah, and you
I go
skip
through all 40 of
well,
them.
you skipped the first 15 verses. You said, "I'm gonna skip
Yeah.
the first 15 and start it," right? Which I love because it made sense. It's but I mean, so tell me why first of
It
all,
took
why did you do
5
it?
Yeah, well, hey, it's our core story. Exodus, I mean, here we are coming into, right, Holy Week, Passover.
Yep.
Passover is the deliverance of God's people from Pharaoh, from Egypt, from slavery, through the wilderness into the promised land. And it was at the Last Supper. It was at the Passover meal, right? Where Jesus is completely flips the script and says, I'm the Passover lamb. And so I think, I mean, it's kind of like most of us were growing up, just like we were, say, going to see Star Wars, right? When I was growing up, you saw the first Star Wars movie. It was called A New Hope. Turns out it was season 4. I mean, who knew? There were 3 massive seasons before the that's how we come into the gospel. We're like season 5.
Yeah.
Jesus. But you can understand Jesus just straight out. He's that good. But like he wants you to go back to season 1, creation. Then he wants you to go to season 2, the fall. Then you want to go to season 3. I call it Abraham. That's a big season. But the Exodus is the critical story by which we can understand the story of Jesus. It's interesting on the road to Emmaus, when he comes alongside those guys, they don't recognize him. And this is, and then he opened God's word and he's starting with Moses, it says. He didn't even go back to creation. He's just starting with Moses. He interpreted to them. He showed them all the places where he was right there
Yeah.
in that story. So Exodus, yeah, and the other reason why is because people are struggling in the wilderness of their life.
Mm.
People are struggling. I got my commercial driver's license for driving the struggle bus. Okay, I know the wilderness. You guys know it. Everybody knows it. And there's enormous teaching and revelation and wisdom and counsel in Exodus. It's unbelievable. The kind of lead in story that I tell, I was with this, I don't know, I guess he was probably 70, 76, 77-year-old friend of mine, and we're having lunch, and he just starts crying. And he looks at me and he says, Plan B. I said, What? He said, I guess my life is now destined to be Plan B. And he starts saying, he said, it was 10 years ago that I discovered my 40-year-old son who died of a massive heart attack out of nowhere, totally healthy, gone. He said, and then my wife died 6 years later of a broken heart, nothing wrong with her. She just could
Mm.
not get over it. And he said, my life is now on plan B. Many people feel that way about their life. And I'm like, guys, in a plan B reality, God still has a plan A story. And he's trying to get us back to plan A. And of course, Exodus is that story, right? Plan A is
Mm.
the garden. Chapter 3, you've already said it. Genesis chapter 3 is plan B. And God is continuously trying to get us back to plan A. Starts over again. Another Adam and Eve, Abraham and Sarah, barren. And he is going to start bringing them back into plan A promised land, a new Eden, right? He's trying to get us from creation to new creation. But that pathway goes through the wilderness,
Uh,
unfortunately. And
uh,
it requires a deliverance. It requires faith. It requires so much. And, the beautiful thing about this is that man, Mike, who I was talking to back there when I was doing this, he's like almost 80 now. He's just become engaged. He's married a widower. And it's just like the girl of his dreams in high school. They've reconnected and they're getting married next month. I'm like, he's back on plan A. He's
uh,
not resigned to plan B. And that's why I wrote this, is because people need to know that life is hard. It's not fair. And guess what? God's not fair. He's better than fair.
That's right. That's right.
I heard a preacher say the other day, said, if you want fair, go to hell because that's where everything's fair.
I heard that too.
That was Howerton.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, that's
So
exactly right. God's fair. Thank God God's not fair. Grace is not fair.
JD, I love this. So we're out of time, but it doesn't matter. It's a podcast, right? Um,
It's long form. Let's go
Jason,
Joe Rogan.
we got 2 more hours.
3 hours
Oh,
later.
so I'm gonna tell a secret. So right before we started, as the countdown was happening before the recording started, you yawned and you said, "Wake up!" Like you're trying to, and then you said, "Hey, man, I'm trying to live this more transcendent way." As opposed to resting from work and resting for work, and we all understand the struggle bus, like, so there's been all these things, but I just want to encourage you, man. The last 40 plus minutes now, you have given us transcendent truth. You have lived, at least
Praise
in
the
this window, a
Lord.
transcendent life. And man, you are such a gift to us and to the church. So I just want to
Wow.
ask, like, as a final thing, what, man, what is giving, as you think about the church, as you look out at the church, I think this would be a great thing just to share with people kind of as we wrap
Yeah.
today. What gives you hope when you're looking out at the
Yeah.
church?
Well, isn't that something? I'm a renowned Bible teacher and nobody has any idea who I am. I mean, it's great. I'm like nothing. And I just turned 59. Came on that day. I held up four fingers. I entered the 60th year's fourth quarter. All right. I feel like game on. It's time. It's finally time for me to wake up and start sowing for a great awakening. I think it's just all been practice and preamble till now. But no, I'm it's the other great symbol of this story of Exodus is the burning bush. Okay. I call them the 10 words. I think these are maybe the 10 most important words in the Bible. Okay. I'm hyperbolic and emphatic. The bush was on fire, it did not burn up. Okay. That's transcendence. The bush was on fire, it did not burn up. That's a picture of what happens when Jesus has us, right?
Mm,
And so that's what I'm trying to impart to people. I'm like, stop asking Jesus to help you and just invite him to have you. Jesus, have me. And that's what's going on at that burning bush. Moses is like, here I am. And Moses is like that 75-year-old man who said, I guess my life is just on plan B now. He was on the backside of the wilderness of Midian, herding sheep for his father-in-law, weren't even his own sheep, born, put out there in that river, picked up by Pharaoh's house. What a story. I'm like, people, it's time to wake up
mm,
and realize that all these storylines that are swirling around our lives, that's not the real story. There's a better story. It's a bigger story. It's not plan B, it's plan A. And you're right on time for it. No matter what's happened, no matter how far you feel like you've fallen. And to pastors, they feel like, I guess I've just kind of missed it. This is not what I had hoped for. Right? What they said on the road to Emmaus, we had hoped.
Mm.
We had hoped. And and I'm like, me too. There's something better than what we had hoped for. And it's actually small. Like, let's get smaller. Let's get down at the seed level and let's let go of the myth of mega and the, you know, story of scaling. And let's get back down on the ground and realize that one person who says, Jesus, have me, and starts saying, Jesus, I belong to you, and starts walking out into the audacity of that reality, that that's a world changing person. I mean, just one,
mhm,
two. It's this it Jesus, in fact, in that parable of the sower, right? He's like, if you get one out of four seeds that hit the right soil, it's it's your Babe Ruth. You led the league in strikeouts and home runs.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's it, Pastor.
Yeah.
You will, if you can get 25%, if you can endure and persevere through a 75% fail rate, you will win. You're winning, in fact.
Wow. Well,
Isn't that the story?
it is.
It
And I
is.
know a lot of pastors out there who are focusing on the 75% fail rate.
It's terrible.
And we just forget that Jesus said, no, 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 no. You aren't controlling that part of it. You just keep throwing seed
Keep swinging.
and you keep swinging. Because if you never get up to the plate, you never strike out, but you also never hit a home run.
Never.
And so I appreciate your encouragement and admonishment in a way of, hey, keep going, keep the focus in the right place. That's JD. Thank you for your time. And there's, I just, we'll put links in the show notes, but I mean, people need to go to Seedbed, ministries and
I
their
want you to
website is,
come, just check out the wake up call. Okay. Just give me a couple of weeks. It is one of my mottos. If it's worth doing, it's worth doing poorly. Okay. I'll give you permission to just be yourself. Come on and give it a shot. This
Yeah.
thing is helping people.
Yeah.
And it's encouraging people. And it's simple.
yeah. Yeah. Well, and I know I'm subscribed to it, both the email and the podcast. That way I see it. If I don't get a chance to listen to it, then I can always read it. And then of course I've got the book version for Lent, but that runs out here
I
in a few days.
appreciate, Jason, you getting that and diving in there with me. We're about to start Ephesians on April 5th or
Okay.
6th. That's
Yeah.
Easter Monday, April
Yeah.
6th.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that as well. So but I just encourage pastors. It's worth the time and effort. And it just, for me at least, it refocuses me on what's important. It's like a little reset button every morning to say, wait a minute, what's most vital? Wake up
Wake up.
and let Christ shine in you. And so I appreciate that. So thank you so much for your time, for your efforts, for all that you're doing. I know you're not doing it for our accolades or for big, being a renowned author.
Noun Bible teacher.
But I
What?
know, but I know you're doing it because when God puts something on your heart, you're gonna listen and obey, and so we appreciate that.
Well, Rob and Jason, thank y'all.
Of course,
All right. Keep on
Yeah.
keeping on. You're doing it.
Well, we appreciate that, and to all of our listeners, we appreciate you. And please know, as we say every week, we are on your side. We're cheering for you, and we're praying for you. Feel free to reach out and let us know how we might help you more. Have an amazing week, and we'll talk with you soon.
Thanks for joining us today at the Church Talk podcast. We hope the conversation encouraged and challenged you. We would love to hear from you. Email your questions or comments to jason@churchtalkproject.com. The Church Talk podcast with Rob and Jason is brought to you by the Church Talk Project. We work to engage, equip, and encourage pastors and church leaders around the world. Thanks for listening.